My husband's infidelity shattered our marriage. This am Emily, 31, and my tale. I was clueless. Not one. I never suspected anything wrong. I was married to James for 6 years after 8 years together. We have a 4-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old boy. Our existence was typical, not perfect. I believed we were simply another married couple managing life, work, and parenting. I watched the kids while husband worked long hours at a legal company. Not everything was easy. My money management is poor, and I spend impulsively. James always seemed cool with it. He laughed and shook his head, like I was a cute little screw-up. But there were signs. It was always noticeable how much James spent in the pub with his man buddies. However, I never considered it. After a tough week, I thought he earned some downtime with the boys. We joked about how I was lucky to stay home with the kids while he was out enjoying guy time. But I never saw it as more safe man things. I thought so. Just a few months ago, things started to seem weird. Not clear at first. He began off remote. He came home late more than normal, and when I asked why, he said he was winding things up at the bar or chatting to other guys. And I ignored it. I didn't want to sound nagging, especially because he worked hard. But the simple things added up. Lack of love, quick comments during disputes, his eyes not engaging mine while we chatted. I borrowed his phone one night, and it was the kicker. Yes, I know, I shouldn't have, but it was on the kitchen counter and I was curious. One of his buddies sent him a strange note. It was absolutely different, flirty. I'd never heard him mention Michael before, yet they texted. I clicked the thread, and the messages made me queasy. It was personal, not casual. They joked about meeting in the pub, but Michael texted him, "Can't wait to see you tonight. I miss and adore you. I love you." I gazed at that for what seemed like forever, trying to understand. Was it joke? Was he joking? It may have been simply man chat. Something seemed wrong, though. The night James arrived home late smelling like booze, I couldn't take it anymore. Had to inquire, "What's up with Michael and you?" I asked, trying to speak clearly. He froze in the doorway before laughing. "You talking about what? Nothing's happening." I doubted him. "No, wait," I persisted. "I got your mails. You said love you to him. Why is that?" He seemed uncomfortable briefly. Defense mechanisms activated. "This is a joke, Emily. Stop acting so theatrical." It wasn't dropped. I couldn't. We debated for hours. I wept. Defense ensued. We uttered things we didn't mean. I once asked, "I presume you'd rather be with your man pals than me? You can't even tell me who you're messaging." Shot back, "Not what you think, Emily. You no longer trust me." I was afraid, but I didn't confess it. I feared I was blind all along. Perhaps I didn't know my spouse well enough. But I wouldn't back down first. I've always acted before thinking. Nothing changed that night. James spent the next several evenings at the pub, and I obsessive on it for days. When he was away, I checked his phone. I knew it was wrong yet did it. More I looked, the worse it became. Each message was more loving than the last. They constantly texted "love you." Not simply as pals joke, but as someone tells someone they care. Possibly more than friends. I was enraged. I didn't want to confront him again either. I wasn't expecting him to deny everything and say I overreacted. I was too afraid of the reality. Michael shared a photo of Michael and James in the bar on social media, which made me snap. They sat close together with their heads together, not like buddies. Despite not knowing what I was staring at, I realized this wasn't a harmless man thing anymore. I needed to know the truth, but I was afraid for us. After seeing the shot, I thought about it for days. I felt wounded and heartbroken, not just furious. I still refused to accept reality. How could I? I married James, my kid's father. We lived together. Can't be genuine, right? But it was. I couldn't ignore what was obvious. I wanted someone to talk to who would be honest. I phoned my closest buddy Sarah. We shared everything from breakups to baby showers. Nobody knew me better than her. She could advise me. She improved after 2 rings. "Emily, what's up? You speak." I inhaled on the living room couch while the kids played peacefully. "It's James. He may be dating one of his guy pals." No idea what to do. The other end was silent. When I spoke, I could practically hear her brain digesting everything. She spoke softly yet sharply. "Are you sure? Very sure? Found messages." My throat tightened when I saw a photo of them. "Looks like more than buddies." "There's more, Allie." She was silent, probably deciding what to say. Finally, she responded, "Okay, get out of that situation. Divorce him and take half." Emily, he disrespects you in your marriage. Why stay? Her words slammed me. Half divorce. I didn't consider that. No idea what I anticipated her to say, but it wasn't that. Not sure how I felt. The thought of separating our family and losing James made me sick. I said, I love him, Allie, before I could stop myself. Still adore him. I don't want to waste anything, especially with youngsters. I doubt I could. After a lengthy silence, her voice was quieter but still sharp. I understand, Emily. You adore him, but you deserve more. He doesn't respect you. Don't let him dominate. Don't let him humiliate you. There are choices. Stop putting up with this. I didn't know how to react. In part, she was right. I had choices. I didn't have to stay in a marriage where my husband was lying. But I couldn't leave, could I? Was it that easy? I hung up with Sarah feeling more lost than ever. I couldn't stop thinking about her advice to drop him and move on. But I couldn't. I couldn't abandon what we'd built. One final time, I had to talk to James. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe there was a simple reason. The next night, after the kids went to bed, I sat him down. I sought explanations to his unusually aloof behavior. I wouldn't be one of those women who ignored warning flags and pretended everything was okay. I needed honesty from him. James, I replied shakily but firmly. We must discuss. He stared blankly at me from his phone. About what? Seeing the texts, I shouted. And the photo? What's up with Michael and you? He glanced at me without speaking. I felt my heart racing and the air between us tense. Finally, he sighed and straightened. I told you it's nothing, Emily. Casual conversation amongst pals. Make a big fuss over nothing. This wasn't worth hearing again. I stopped making excuses. Tell me the truth, James. I saw. You're flirting with him? Love you? Sounds like more than pals. His eyes grew steely. I told you otherwise. Why don't you believe me once? I was becoming irritable. You want me to trust you after everything I've seen? After texts, after photo? Do I simply pretend everything's fine? He tightened his teeth and crossed arms. Emily, maybe you should trust me more. It's not my problem. Then it hit me. He didn't bother admitting fault. He deflected. He made me feel bad for questioning him. I'm not the problem, James, I said loudly. You are. You're acting like everything's a joke, like I'm an idiot who doesn't notice. I'm not dumb. He snapped, I never called you dumb. But maybe you should prioritize our marriage above my buddies. I wanted to shout. I didn't expect this discourse. This wasn't intended. I should be obtaining answers, not making things worse. My voice broke as I continued, James, I want the truth. I wonder if this deserves preservation. He didn't speak again. He got up, grabbed his jacket, and left the home. All done. In the quiet, I stared at his vacant spot, wondering whether this was the end. The following several days blurred. James didn't return home that night or the following. I called him but got no answer. First, I assumed he was cooling down. I felt fear creeping in as the hours turned into days. Was this real? Was he really going to ignore me? I spent those days with the kids trying to make things normal and hide my brokenness. My kids were too small to notice James and my conflict, but I felt like a stranger in my own home. Our family home seemed chilly and empty. Text came next, from an unknown number. Hi, Emily. It's hard to say, but James and I have been seeing one other. He confessed his love. Though difficult, you deserve to know the truth. Just Michael signed the message. It felt like a gut punch. I sat down because my eyesight clouded. Believing anything was wrong was one thing. However, this was undisputed. Everything I dreaded and more was in black and white, not knowing what to do. A mess in my head. As I repeated the message to make sense of it, my thoughts wandered. I couldn't process it immediately. Like I was living someone else's life. How could I have been blind? How could I have missed this? Allison called quickly. She probably heard something from James or the grapevine. I sensed stress in her voice when she inquired, Did you get the text? I first didn't answer. Not knowing what to say. She asked, Emily, okay? Not okay. Whispering, I struggled to speak. It exists. It's occurring. Been with Michael. He confessed his love. Heard Allison mutter beneath her breath. I knew. I sensed trouble. You must leave, Emily. Holding on to a checked-out person is pointless. Though she couldn't see me, I shook my head. Allison, I can't. I adore him. No way can I toss everything away. My kids, life, all okay, but what about you? She snapped. Your happiness? You deserve better. He decided. His message is that you don't matter. What else do you need? He's gone, Emily. Stop wasting time. I remained silent, absorbing her words. I wanted to shout at her that she didn't get it, wasn't in my shoes, and it wasn't that easy. But part of me knew she was right. Part of me knew I should go and battle for my sanity. However, part of me wanted to curl up and ignore it. Returning to normal was my wish. James should come home, apologize, and reassure me. I knew that wasn't feasible. My beloved, my kid's father, was gone. He was already with someone else. James returned late that night after the kids were sleeping. I waited downstairs for him to come to me, hearing him stroll. But he didn't. Instead, he stared at me from the living room doorway. Our stillness was oppressive. I breathed deeply and said, "Let's speak." He nodded slowly, anticipating this. The look in his eyes was unusual. Something chilly. He wasn't my husband. He was nothing like I remembered. I got the text. My voice was hardly audible. I know what happened. I know Michael and you. He was silent at first. He stood with his arms crossed, staring at me blankly. I expected him to dispute it or say anything to disprove it. But he didn't. Finally, he apologized, but his voice seemed insincere. I didn't intend this. Emily, I can't pretend. The situation is unfair to us. The words slapped me in the face. My mind raced as I watched him. Your plan is to leave immediately? Shrugging. Want to stop harming you. I'm done lying. I became angry again. James, you lied to me for months. I've been lied to every time you left that door. You lied to me every time you kissed me goodbye and said everything was okay. Sighing, he stroked his hair. I wanted to avoid this. But it did. I can't alter it. You and I changed, Emily. You're not the lady I married, and I'm not the man you thought I was. The remarks stung harder than I wanted to acknowledge. Actually, he was right. We changed. I changed. This may have been the wake-up call I needed to recognize that. Despite that, it ached. Is that it? A tearful me murmured. Is this the end? A lengthy stare at me gave me the impression he was regretting something. It vanished, replaced by icy apathy. Emily, I suppose we're done. I couldn't believe we signed the paperwork together. James didn't protest when I requested a divorce. I felt like I was observing someone else's life. A part of me, I didn't admit, felt relieved. But that terrible chest discomfort persisted. The youngsters were confused but young enough to recover. I tried to be normal, but everything had changed. I eventually understood that this was our end. I feared being empty or lost after the divorce. I felt this weight lift from my shoulders instead. I was free from anxiety, the dread of never being enough, and the weariness of trying to cling onto a marriage that had been sliding away for so long. I didn't realize James's leaving started something else. Something I later realized was best. But what occurred next stunned me most. James looked different when he arrived in the area. I first didn't recognize him. His makeup included light foundation and eyeliner. Wearing a dress. Not any dress, but a bright, dramatic one. I had never seen his hairstyle before. He changed completely from the person I thought I knew. He seemed finally free to be himself, the person he had concealed for so long. Changes went beyond his looks. His whole demeanor changed. He was more confident, energetic, and unapologetic. Seeing him like way was shocking, but I couldn't deny it. He finally rejoiced. It was the man I never knew he could be, and it felt like a weight was lifted from us. He laughed while strolling along the street one day with his arms around a man. Nothing mattered as they held hands. Seeing him so confident hurt. I realized something then. I no longer desired the man I was trying to help. He wasn't familiar, so maybe that was the goal. We weren't compatible, and now he was discovering his true self, which I never understood. And I did better without him. He didn't fit into my life anymore and couldn't love me properly. He may have been better off without me too. Watching him grow up unafraid and unapologetic helped me understand that this divorce may have been best for us. It rescued me from marrying a man who wasn't being himself and allowed him to become the person he always was but couldn't show me. I have no regrets. Not anymore. Not when I saw him happy and free, even after our divorce. Even if I couldn't see it, everything seemed to happen for a reason. Sometimes the toughest choices work best.